My late grandfather's lawyer called and said I inherited his entire estate, $80 million. The catch: I have to live in his mansion for 30 days. No one told me why the last 6 heirs all left on day 3. I had met my grandfather exactly twice. Once at a family reunion when I was 7, and once at my father's funeral when I was 19. He was a tall, silent man who shook my hand at the graveside and said, "You have your father's eyes," then turned and walked away before I could respond. My father had barely spoken of him. My mother actively refused to. He was, as far as the family was concerned, a closed subject. So when his lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Taylor, called me on a Tuesday morning and explained that I, out of everyone in the family, stood to inherit $80 million, I laughed out loud. "There's a condition," she said, cutting through my laughter. "You must reside continuously in the estate for 30 days. If you leave before the 30 days are up, the inheritance passes to a charitable trust." "Seems simple enough," I said. "6 previous heirs were named before you. All 6 left on day 3. I waited for her to explain. She didn't. "Why?" I finally asked. "That's not information I'm at liberty to share." She paused. "The estate has a full-time groundskeeper, a man named Walter, who will remain on the property. You may not ask him to leave. That is also a condition of the will." I almost said no. Almost. Then I thought about my apartment, my job, and my bank account, and I said yes. I pulled up to the mansion on a Friday evening with 2 suitcases and the specific kind of optimism that only exists when $80 million is involved. The house was enormous and old, set back from a private road behind iron gates. Walter met me at the door. He was in his 70s, thin, with pale blue eyes that stayed on me a beat too long. "You must be the 7th, he said. "Not welcome. Not your name. The 7th. "That's me," I said. The first 2 days were fine. Quiet, even beautiful. I explored the library, walked the grounds, cooked in the massive kitchen. Walter moved through the house like a shadow, present but wordless, unless I spoke first. On day 2, I asked him directly, "Why did the others leave?" He set down the dish he was drying. "The house shows people things," he said carefully. "Most people don't want to be shown." "What does that mean?" He picked the dish back up. "You'll understand soon enough." Night 3, I woke at 2 in the morning to the sound of piano music drifting up from the ground floor. Clear, slow, deliberate notes. Not background noise, not something you could talk yourself into being a car passing outside or pipes settling. A real melody. I lay still for a long moment, telling myself Walter was up late. Then I remembered there was no piano in this house. I had walked every room in 2 days of thorough boredom. I knew that for a fact. I grabbed my phone and went downstairs. The music stopped the moment my foot hit the bottom step. The house was silent. I checked every room on the ground floor, heart hammering. Nothing. No Walter, no instrument, no explanation. I went back to bed and told myself it was a dream. The next morning, I found Walter in the kitchen and described what I heard. He listened without surprise. "Your grandfather composed that piece," he said. "He played it every night for 40 years. Old houses remember. Houses don't remember anything," I said. Walter looked at me with those pale eyes. The others said the same thing, usually right before they packed their bags. I didn't pack my bags. I heard the music again on nights 5 and 7. By night 10, I had stopped getting out of bed when it started. By night 15, I was leaving my door open so it carried up more clearly. What I eventually understood, and what I think the others never waited long enough to learn, was that my grandfather had designed the whole thing deliberately. The music came from a speaker system he'd had installed in the walls, triggered each night at 2 a.m. by a timer he'd set before he died. It was in his study notes, which I found on day 20, tucked inside a copy of Meditations. He wrote, "I want to know if they are the kind of person who stays when they don't understand, or runs because they're afraid of what they can't explain. Fear is not a character flaw, but it is disqualifying." He wasn't haunting anyone. He was testing everyone. I called Patricia Taylor on day 21 and read her the note over the phone. She was quiet for a long moment. "He told me once," she said, "that he spent his whole life surrounded by people who only stayed when it was comfortable." On day 30, she came to the house herself to hand me the paperwork. Walter shook my hand at the door, the first time he'd initiated any physical contact since I arrived. "He would have liked you," he said. I believed